The Yes Method. 5 Steps to Clear Decisions in a Noisy World. Dr. Scott Cloutier. To the forest that first taught me how to hear my yes. To the simple round basketball that connected me with thousands through a game that asks us to listen beyond the mind. And to the drum that reminds me to let go and return to the deeper rhythm. Thank you. How to use this book. This book is designed to be used, not just read. Think of it as a guide that you can return to whenever life places a real decision in front of you. Each chapter introduces one step of the Yes Method and includes a simple practice so you can apply it immediately. If you want the full benefit of the book, pause and complete the practices as you go. The Yes Method becomes clear not by thinking about it, but by running the yes. This is not a one-time process. The Yes Method becomes clearer each time you return to it. Each decision, each question, each moment of uncertainty becomes another opportunity to listen more deeply. There is also a growing online space where people gather to practice running the yes together. If you would like to explore the method with others, you are welcome there. See the QR code below. You can read the book from beginning to end or move through it step by step while running the yes on a real decision in your life. If you are currently facing an important decision, keep a notebook or journal ready nearby. By the end of this book, you will have greater clarity and a concrete next step. Whenever you feel stuck between choices, remember the simple instruction: run the yes. Introduction. Before the Yes Method had a name, I learned it from the forest. I grew up surrounded by trees. When something weighed on me or I could not figure something out, I would wander into the forest to gain insight. Sometimes I would sit quietly against a trunk or stand in the shade of towering pines. My favorite ritual was to toss an acorn and place my hand against the tree it struck. Then I would simply wait, listening with all my senses. The forest moved with a kind of rhythm. Certain animals passed through at particular times of day. Deer used the same paths for cover and movement. Birds arrived and disappeared with the light. Predators moved differently than the animals they followed. A fallen tree would suddenly burst with life. Nothing in the forest was random. Everything seemed to know how to move within a larger pattern. And there were patterns within patterns. The longer I spent there, the more I began to sense that rhythm. I could feel when the forest was quiet and when something was about to move through it. Eventually, I noticed the same patterns within myself. I could feel different parts of me responding in different ways, though, at the time, I did not have words for that. Slowly, I began to understand that intelligence is not something only we think. It is something we can feel and something we can learn to trust. And I began to notice something simple but powerful. The answers did not come from thinking harder. They appeared when I stopped trying to solve the problem with my mind. In the forest, there was a different kind of intelligence. The trees were rooted, patient, and deeply alive. When I slowed down enough to listen, clarity would appear. It did not arrive as words, it arrived as knowing. A calm sense of direction, a subtle inner signal that said, "This way." I did not know it at the time, but I was learning something that would shape the rest of my life. The mind is a brilliant tool, but it is not where our deepest knowing lives. That knowing lives somewhere quieter. Years later, I would encounter a very different way of understanding the world. I spent 6 years in the military, an experience that exposed me to systems where outcomes mattered deeply. Decisions were often made under pressure, and the goal was clear: achieve the objective. During that time, I began to notice something. When the mind becomes attached to a particular outcome, it can create unintended consequences. When the mind is convinced it must force the world into a specific result, it can overlook signals, relationships, and forms of intelligence that might lead to wiser action. That realization echoed against something I had learned much earlier in the forest. It reminded me of the quiet intelligence I had felt there as a child. The forest was not always gentle. Animals fought for territory. Life and death were part of the cycle. Storms broke branches and seasons reshaped the landscape. Yet life moved through constant change, adaptation, and response. Nothing in the forest tried to force the future into a particular shape. And when something did push too far beyond the balance of the system, the consequences were often swift. Nature's intelligence revealed itself only when I stopped trying to impose my will and began to listen. Over time, that contrast began to shape the questions I would later explore. Years later, I found myself studying happiness as an academic. I was really after one question: how can we access the quiet knowing I felt in the forest? During my doctoral training at Cornell University and throughout my academic career, I noticed that many of the approaches we use to solve complex problems relied almost entirely on the mind. And often those problems were created by the mind itself. We analyzed systems, modeled outcomes, gathered data, and tried to understand and reason our way to better solutions. Yet I knew the deeper kind of wisdom I had felt among the trees could teach us something about how we design the human world. Could our communities, our work, and our daily environments be shaped in ways that support life with the same patience and intelligence I had experienced in the forest? I spent years researching happiness and human flourishing, studying the conditions that allow the mind to step aside so a deeper knowing can emerge, what psychologists call flow. Flow is a state where attention becomes fully present, action feels natural, and the mind quiets long enough for something deeper to guide the moment. Athletes experience it on the court or field, musicians feel it when the music seems to play through them. Artists describe it when the work begins to unfold almost on its own. In these moments, something interesting happens. The mind grows quieter, action and awareness begin to merge, and decisions that once felt complicated suddenly become simple. Much of the research on flow focuses on performance or happiness, but what struck me most was something more subtle. In these states, people were not just performing well, they were listening differently. The noise of the mind softened, and a deeper form of knowing became available. As I studied these patterns, something began to feel familiar. The same quiet clarity researchers described in flow states was the same feeling I had experienced years earlier sitting quietly in the forest. Different language, same signal. Over the years, I also encountered that same signal through other practices. I realized the rhythm of the drum carried the same intelligence I had once felt in the forest. In my training in shamanic traditions and later through the study of hypnosis, I found additional ways of entering this quiet awareness. Both practices invite the analytical mind to soften so something deeper can emerge. In shamanic work, rhythm, the drum, and attention help shift awareness beyond ordinary thinking. In hypnosis, guided attention allows the mind to relax its grip so deeper patterns and insights can surface. Different traditions describe this state in different ways, but the experience is remarkably similar. The noise of the mind settles, attention deepens, and a quieter knowing begins to appear. Again and again, I found myself arriving at the same place I had first discovered as a child in the forest, and often I would feel that same signal in a very different place. The gym was quiet except for the sound of shoes on the hardwood and the echo of the ball bouncing off the floor. The game was tied, both teams 3 points from victory and the right to remain on the court. Someone passed me the ball out of bounds. I had not played in 2 months. Before I even caught the pass, something inside me already knew what was about to happen. The moment felt strangely calm, not rushed, not dramatic, just clear. I crossed half court and rose into the shot, nothing but net. The gym exploded. Someone yelled, "You haven't played with us in 2 months and you do that?" I laughed, but what struck me most was not the shot itself. It was the feeling just before it happened. There was no debate in my mind, no analysis of distance or probability. The decision had already been made somewhere deeper. After many years of coaching high performers on relationships, leaderships, and the decisions that shape a life, I began to notice something. Most people try to think their way to the right decision. Most people do not lack intelligence, they lack access. They are trying to hear a deeper knowing through layers of internal interference, a key concept of this book and the Yes Method. By internal interference, I mean the thoughts, fears, conditioning, protective patterns, and inherited voices that distort your ability to hear what is actually true for you. For you. Sometimes it sounds like fear, sometimes it sounds like logic, sometimes it sounds like responsibility, perfectionism, or the need to be accepted. It is not always loud, but it is often persuasive. Entire institutions are built upon this approach. Decision models, data analysis, criteria, and predictive patterns are all rooted in the mind. We analyze, we compare options, we search for certainty. And so many of the most important decisions in our life become trapped in endless loops of thought. Yet the most important decisions in life rarely arrive through analysis alone. I noticed that when people slow down enough to step back from the noise of their thinking and the interference that presents itself, clarity often appeared much more quickly than expected. What they discovered was not a new answer, it was a knowing that had been there all along. Collective experience and realization eventually became the foundation of a simple decision process. The yes method is a way of recognizing and clearing internal interference so the yes that already lives inside you can be heard and acted upon. Each chapter in this book will guide you through the process and give you a simple practice so you can apply it immediately. By the end, you will not just understand the yes method, you will know how to run it whenever life places a real decision in front of you. And over time, you may begin to notice something else. This is not just a way of making decisions, it is a way of returning to yourself. Remember, run the yes.